contributions from women across the rail landscape have forged our industry's past and play an important role in shaping its future. This year, the inaugural Women of Influence in Rail Recognition program shines a spotlight on these trailblazers, innovators, and changemakers who are making a lasting impact in 5 key areas: mentorship, leadership, innovation, sustainability, and technology. Women of Influence recognizes the achievements of women across all sectors of rail, from operations and engineering to leadership and advocacy. By highlighting their important contributions, we aim to inspire the next generation and support a more inclusive industry. Here are the women being recognized for their commitment to mentorship. Kirsten Bowen, National Director, Rail and Transit for Michael Baker International. Carla Ewing, Senior VP of Service Assurance for Watco. Sharita Hunter-Jones, Senior Manager of Grade Crossing and Wayside Engineering for Norfolk Southern Railway. Elizabeth Clowen, Manager, Engineering and Construction Maintenance for the Delaware River Port Authority. Debbie Lowry, Field Service Operations Supervisor for LB Foster. Bridget Monahan, Project Engineer for Trailer Brothers. Mariah Morales, Director of Government Affairs for Amtrak. And Mindy White, National Discipline Manager for Rail Engineering, RailPros. Congratulations to one and all.
In November, we opened the nomination portal, inviting railroads, transit rail agencies, suppliers, and contractors to send us the names of the women who are making a difference in their organizations. Of those nominations, 50 women were chosen to be recognized for their contributions to their organization and the rail industry. I'm thrilled to share the names of the women we've recognized in the leadership category. Their names and the companies they work for are Miriam Agahi, Director of Design Engineering, National Steel Car. Adrian Bailey, Partner and Head of Rail, Oliver Wyman. Jennifer Bailey, Director, Mechanical Operations, Norfolk Southern Railway. Tracy Barclay Ward, Location Manager, Backtrack Railway Services. Tina Beckberger, Chief Commercial Officer, AITX. Riley Birmingham, South Atlantic Rail Section Leader, HDR. Jacinda Clemenza, Chief Engineer, ENSCO. Carrie Crozier, Vice President Intermodal Operations, CSX. Lori Ebbeckhauser, Vice President, Chief Safety Officer, MTA, Long Island Railroad. Amber Farley, Superintendent of Rail Operations, TXNW Railway. Lori Garrison, Engineering Project Manager, Siemens Mobility. Caitlin Grant, Project Manager, Railworks, LK Comstock. Trish Haver, Chief Commercial Officer, North Carolina Railroad Company. Akila Henry, Rail Operations Manager, Toyota North America. Chris Holan, Executive Director, B&O Railroad Museum. Elizabeth Lea, Senior Manager of Operations, Trans Global Solutions. Leslie Ann Lewis, Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, CN. Michelle Malsky, President and Founder, Spring. Sarah McBrayer, General Manager, Transit Products, LB Foster. Laura McNichol, Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer, Watco. Jackie Morales, Project Manager, Icomera. Monica Pointer, Rail Audits Team Manager, American Truck and Rail Audits. Beth Pratt, Director Transit Services, Port Authority Transit Corporation. Patricia Quinn, Executive Director, Northern New England Passenger Rail Authority. Maria Sarasotis, Managing Director, Sales and Marketing, Merchandise, Canadian Pacific, Kansas City. Marcia Shapiro, President, Marine Tiger Technologies. And Maureen Taylor, Assistant Director, Operations, MTA, Metro North Railroad.
Today, these exceptional women are celebrated for their role in shaping the industry's future in meaningful ways. But recognition is more than just an award, it's about visibility. That's why our 2025 class of Women of Influence in Rail will be featured throughout the year on our dedicated Women of Influence in Rail website. Among the listings, you'll find the following women from the innovation category. They are Christina Bottomley, Vice President of Business Development and Real Estate at CSX, Amy Brown, Product Manager and Senior Market Analyst at Trinity Industries, Ritu Chawla, Director of Artificial Intelligence at Ytronics, Shelley Colucci, Northeast Regional Sales Manager at LB Foster, Claudia Mandarino, Principal Project Ramps Manager at Hitachi Rail STS, and Davina Miller, Group Manager of Operational Efficiency at Norfolk Southern Railway.
We'll also feature this year's honorees in the pages of Progressive Railroading magazine and an exclusive ebook highlighting the unique skills and capabilities that earn them both a nomination and a final selection. The women recognized for influence in the sustainability category are Belasmina de Oliveira, Vice President of Enterprise Resources at Norfolk Southern Railway, Amanda Fagan, Director of Planning and Sustainability at Ventura County Transportation Commission, and Adriana Smith, Manager of Corporate Communications and Sustainability at the Greenbrier Companies.
As we celebrate their accomplishments, we also recognize the challenges they've overcome and the doors they're opening for others, thanks to their passion, curiosity, and dedication to creating and sustaining a modern and resilient industry. Our final category, technology, features the following women of influence. Grace Cabana, Vice President, Product Management, Cedar AI. Lisa Mata, Vice President, Product Management, Ytronics. Jayurshri Menon, Head of Onboard Wayside Development, Hitachi Rail STS. Connie Nordhus Bieber, Vice President, Customer Engagement, Railspire. Sapna Shah, Senior Director, Enterprise Asset Management, MTA Metro North Railroad. And Kate Wen, Project Engineer, Trailer Brothers.
First, I'd like to congratulate all the women who are being recognized today. This is a much-deserved honor for all of you. I'd also like to thank our sponsors of this inaugural celebration. We appreciate your support, not only of this event, but for recognizing and championing the women of your organization that have had an impact on the entire rail industry. Our platinum sponsors, CSX, Norfolk Southern. Our silver sponsors, American Truck and Rail Audits, CPKC, ENSCO, Icomera, LB Foster, North Carolina Railroad Company, and the Greenbrier Companies. And our bronze sponsors, AITX, Cedar AI, Trailer Brothers, Trinity, and Ventura County Transportation Commission. Once again, I thank all of you for your support.
Congratulations to this year's Women of Influence in Rail. Your passion, dedication, and leadership are shaping a more diverse and inclusive future. We celebrate you today and every day. And now it is my honor to introduce our panel of 4 outstanding women from this year's program, who will share their experiences, their challenges, and some advice for the future. Julie Snyder, Senior Editor with Progressive Railroading Magazine, is our moderator and facilitator. I'd like to welcome her to the program. Julie, let's get this underway.
Thank you, Wendy, and welcome everyone to our inaugural celebration of Women of Influence in Rail. As Wendy said, we are joined today by 4 remarkable women who will serve as our panelists, and I'd like to introduce them now. Christina Bottomley, Vice President of Business Development and Real Estate at CSX. Christina is recognized as a woman of influence in the innovation category. Kirsten Bowen, National Director of Rail and Transit at Michael Baker International. Kirsten is recognized as a woman of influence in the mentorship category. Mina de Oliveira, Vice President, Enterprise Resources at Norfolk Southern Railway, who is recognized as a woman of influence in sustainability. And Laura McNichol, Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer at Watco, who is recognized as a woman of influence in the leadership category. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to start today's discussion by asking each of our panelists a question. After they provide their answers, we will be open to questions from our attendees. So to kick things off, ladies, if you could share with us your career journey, what led you to the rail industry, and also describe what it means to you to be influential in the category for which you've been recognized. Christina, why don't we start with you?
Sounds great. And thank you for having me. I was reflecting on this today, and I truly am humbled. And hopefully, when you hear my path, you'll really see why. But I'd say I have a non-traditional path to the railroad and even to my role. So I actually started as a math major in college. And it was the early 2000s, and Enron and all of that came with it happened. And I was at a school that happened to have a really good accounting program at the University of Florida, and they started recruiting us to switch over to accounting. So I always joke I'm a recovering accountant. But to help with the financial crisis that was happening then. So I actually am a CPA. I keep my CPA just because I worked hard for it, but I don't practice anymore. And I started my career path in audit and implementing SOX controls. But after working in public accounting for a while, I actually transitioned over to the transaction side, where I helped take companies public. And one of my bosses went to a real estate firm and recruited me there. And so before you knew it, they recruited me though for a job that actually didn't exist yet. And she said, "Hey, come over. We're building this. It's a public company, and you'll do lots of things." So I did everything from accounting to managing our joint venture partnerships to deal making to developments. And it was a fantastic journey. But I was in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is very heavy on transportation, and I knew of CSX and always wanted to be a part of it. And we were going to do a full audit transformation. And so I threw my name in the hat, and the rest is history. I'm now I've been here since 2014, but I love rail. I've held roles in audit where I did operational and financial audits, finance, accounting, real estate, and now business development, where I have short line partnerships. So to those who are on the call today, thank you for your partnerships. I have joint facilities, passenger operations, industrial development, and real estate, so buying and selling, leasing. And innovation, it means so much because I think there's this perception that accountants, you just, see things in black and white. But I think having started my career in audit, I was trained from early on that you need to ask questions. And so I'm just so honored that CSX has been open to my incessant questions and my team's questions. And we've been able to create this environment of continuous improvement and doing some really, really cool things on the business development front.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Kirsten, tell us about your career path and how you ended up in rail.
Oh, sure. And again, I'm very honored to be here, very surprised to be named a woman of influence, especially in the mentorship category, but that is definitely something that I can focus on a little bit. But I started my career as a transportation engineer, doing more like roadway, highway, land development design. Sometimes there was a grade separation involved, and so I was a little bit interested in rail. And at one point, we were working on a project in Chicago that I'm sure everybody knows about, the CREATE program. And we were looking for somebody, and I volunteered to throw my name in the ring to get involved in the 75th Street Corridor Improvement Program. And so, that was how I started my career in rail, and I kind of bounced back and forth between roadway and rail for about a decade after that before switching completely into the rail side, the dark side, as some may call it, but I think it's the best side. And in my journey, I've been a part of a bunch of organizations, professional development, technical, etc. And there's always this element of not having enough mentors for young women entering the industry. And so, I think that it's really great to be able to give advice that maybe would have been helpful to me 20 years ago, to people that, may be in a similar position as I am. So really just giving folks the opportunity to advance their career on projects, being a sounding board, listening, providing advice if needed. I'm not here to solve everybody's problems, but just kind of give you the benefit of my journey to see if that might be helpful to you, and maybe provide some lessons learned that maybe I would do differently over the course of my career. So I'm very passionate about it. We have a mentorship program at Michael Baker and a women's empowerment network that I was integral in starting. So a lot of things to kind of look forward to here.
Great. Thanks for telling us your story, Kirsten. And definitely mentorship came up in many of the Women of Influence's stories as they came in over the last several months. Mina, what's your story? Not just at Norfolk Southern, but how did you find your way into the rail industry?
I think a little like Christine was talking about things always happen kind of, it's almost like faith. But maybe I'll just start a bit earlier. I'm actually first generation Canadian. My parents Portuguese. My mother was a seamstress and my dad butcher in an industrial environment. Their main focus was always, you are going to go to university and you're going to work, and really encrusted that work ethic in me. But I think there's one moment early on, and I'm telling the story because it connects to where I am today. I was 14 years old, and my parents did not speak very good English or French, so they were renegotiating a mortgage, and they brought me along. And I actually helped in that negotiation. And I think I didn't realize it, but later on went into economics at Concordia University and entered the co-op program, and basically tried Industry Canada for 8 months. Things were not moving fast enough there. And I was done in 2 months what I was supposed to have taken 8 months to do. So my next term was actually at CN Rail. And basically in 1998, they were going through major transformation. Got the chance to actually work with Bain and Company at the time as part of that transformation, and really learned all the sides of the business through data, accounting, going out in the field, really started to really understand what rail was all about. I had no idea. I saw trains passing every day. We didn't live too far from rail tracks, actually. So it was incredible, and got hired on in a time, and I think, Christina, you also said it, there weren't many jobs out there. You were happy to get a job. So basically, was lucky enough out of, I think we were 10 co-ops, I got the job in supply management. Not too long after that, there was the year 2000 bubble that no one knew what was going to happen at midnight in 2000. And I started with supply management in IT, crew, taxis, and then basically moved on to fuel. And fuel kind of became an area that just inspired me, and really understanding both the oil industry and the rail industry and how those connect. And it is our #1 expense across all railways. Just was incredible. And that really tied in to sustainability. So jobs, basically I created jobs throughout my career. There aren't many jobs that I went into that were existing jobs. And it was working with many different people, a lot of women actually, Chantal Després, a real trailblazer in the sustainability world, Janet Drysdale, and basically looking at fuel and how fuel actually gets used in the locomotives. Worked very closely also with another nominee, Lisa Mata, in the very early days of Ytronics. So really creating how do we apply technology to transform what we do, and working with people that had 20, 30, 40 years of experience and listening, going out in the field, running on trains, going, becoming a conductor, and basically understanding how the data and what actually happens out in the field connects, and how can you then make things better. And sustainability, I mean, it's our planet. The planet will stay, we will be gone, and it's about how do we make sure we leave a planet that our kids, our grandkids, and all future generations can live in well. So that's basically my story. So CN, I did go to shipping for a little while, also fuel efficiency. Then I went into renewable energy in a trading company for biodiesel and renewable diesel. And then I missed rail way too much. And yes, we say dark side, but it's the best side. So I came back. I'm super glad to be here at Norfolk Southern, and really driving working with an entire team here that is very focused on operational efficiency, safety, and sustainability, which all is very connected and together.
Well, Mina, that's a great story. Two things stand out for me that you mentioned. One is that family connection early in the beginning. It seems like, folks who come into rail, so often there's a family tie. Someone directed them to something, or it's the grandfather and the father, and in some cases the mother is in rail, and it seems to be passed down. And the other thing you talked about is how no matter what a person's interest is in, there is a place for you in the rail industry, it seems. You can come from another area of interest, and it's not always, although rail needs a lot of engineers, but that's not the only path to get into the rail business. Laura, what is your story, and how did you get into the rail business?
Thank you, and thanks to all of the team here for this recognition. It feels funny to be a part of this esteemed crowd. But long story short, I went to community college to be a pilot. I'm not a pilot, I'm a railroader. After community college, I went to Rutgers. I worked full-time through college, so it took me 6 years. I ended up graduating with a journalism degree because it was the least amount of credits to graduate, not because I wanted to be a journalist, but it taught me how to write. I ended up working in agriculture, natural resources conservation in the first part of my career, the first 8 years of my career in Washington, D.C. for the National Association of Conservation Districts. So Mina, similar to you, like that was our purpose, to leave this place better than we found it. And I used to have a postcard, I know I have it somewhere on the desk, about the Dust Bowl that said, those who ignore history are destined to repeat it. So when I had the chance to learn about the rail industry when it was time to move on from that role, I ended up working for an advocacy organization called Go Rail. And I was there for 8 years. And what we did was promote the freight rail industry to kind of support what the Class 1s were doing in Washington, but at the grassroots level in the States. That led to a position with RJ Corman. But before I get to that, one of the things that I remember when I was at Go Rail was one of my mentors, Judy Petrie, being on the cover of Progressive Railroading. And I see she's on this call today. So, hey, Sugar, how are you? She's always been an inspiration to me. And to think that I got, like, when she was on the cover of a magazine and I ended up getting to work with her, it was a pretty big deal for me. So I was at RJ Corman for a couple years and on the applied side of the business now, not just talking about freight rail, but actually being involved in the operations of it some. And there was a woman that was a consultant to RJ Corman that taught me a lot that I was able to take to WACO when I started at WACO in 2017. And, you know, the writing aspect of my job has really, I always felt like it kind of set me apart because I could communicate. I sometimes wonder what AI is going to do for those that know how to write. But, you know, I've been able to take the skills that I learned at RJ Corman with the consultant that we use, her name's Leanne Cumber, and apply what I learned through her to WATCO with great success, because when I talk about writing, it's writing federal grants. And if anybody on this call has ever done that, they know how much work goes into those. And I'm very proud of the WATCO team because we do this completely in-house. And so when we first started doing it at WATCO, I remember just grabbing one of our accountants, Angela Schaefer, and a couple others to write these grants with us and just kind of learn it ourselves. And we've been able to be successful in it. Since that time, I've taught each of the people on my team to write their own grants. And we've been extremely successful in that space. And I'm very proud to say that each of the people on my team, there's 5 of us total, have all won our own, you know, federal grants. So it's exciting. And, you know, my colleague Carla Ewing is on this call, who is also recognized in this wonderful space of women. So thank you very much. And I can keep going, but I'll turn it to the crowd. Back to you, Julie, to share any other questions you have. Thank you.
Well, Laura, thank you for your story. Again, amazing stories. And I'd like to ask if anyone in the audience has a question to please submit it under the Q&A area on your screen. And while we wait for those questions to come in, I'm just going to kind of toss this out there. And ladies, if you would just jump in when you have a response. But I'm curious, what were the challenges that you faced as a woman rising through the ranks in what is a traditionally male-dominated industry, and how did you overcome those challenges? Let's see. Okay, Laura.
You know, I've been very lucky. I can't look back at my career and think that I've ever been held back because I'm a woman. That's just not an experience that I have felt. But I think we have some barriers to overcome and just, you know, fitting in with the team. I'll joke with some of my folks, you know, in the effort to be all inclusive, we say guys and gals, you know, or guys and ladies. Like, I'm from New Jersey, we say guys for everybody, and it's fine. But sometimes
Me too.
I don't yeah, like, I don't like to be singled out. And I've been in a room where they're like, okay, guys and gal, and I like, don't single me out. Like, that makes me feel like I'm different from you guys. But my secret to you know, breaking through with our operations team is often spewed with expletives. And like, I'm one of you. I can curse just like the rest of you, as long as it's appropriate and not inappropriate. But you know, this is a tough business. These guys work incredibly hard, and I respect them for everything that they do. And they know I'm there grabbing their backs when they need it, you know, so they can operate the trains, serve the customers, do it as safely as possible. And, you know, some of the other stuff that comes up around the fringe of that, because in my role, we do stakeholder engagement and government relations at all levels of government. So if we can solve some of those things that crop up from time to time, and let the team run the trains and run the railroads. That's been incredibly helpful to just connecting with the team.
Mina, how about you? What has your experience been?
Well, I think similar to Laura, it's I don't think being a woman has ever held me back. I think operations and railroading, you either love it and you're out there, you want to understand, you're asking questions, you're going out boots on the ballast to really be able to then do whatever your job is if it's in the background. So for me, it was, supply management, understanding contracts, understanding what type of business requirements we had for materials or services, and really, going out, speaking with the engineering team, or when I was on the fuel side, the transportation team, it was really about going out there. So I think the toughest part was actually being a single mom for many years, having a support system and being able, and I was lucky enough, Portuguese parents are amazing, and they were always there for me. So my daughter, she knows how to speak Portuguese. She went to Portuguese school on Saturdays, but on top of that, my parents made sure she learned. So I had a support system, and I think that's one of the things. And whether you're a woman or a man today, it's about trying to make sure you've got that support system. And even, my parents did go on vacation sometimes, and I had colleagues within, at the time my daughter was young at CN, where we helped each other. And it's a tough job, thankless, and, in fuel, having midnight calls, that was part of the job. You just learn to create your support system that allows you to be able to manage it. So I love it.
Great. Kirsten, how about you? What are your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I think it's been a similar situation. I've always had, allies that, have kind of propped me up and, encouraged me to do things that may have been outside my comfort zone. There have been a few, kind of hurdles here and there. One was like pay equity. That was probably about 20 or so years ago. And I, kind of learned by accident that, there were men that were getting paid more than me doing less, and I just had to have the conversation, bring it to somebody's attention. And it was like, this is not okay. And, it took a bit, but it was eventually like rectified. And, the other thing is sometimes it seems like you have to work a little harder, to be recognized that you're capable of doing some other things. And, that's always been, my motivation is just to work hard and, be recognized for the things that I'm doing and the contributions that I'm making, and, making sure that you're at the table and your voice is there, and, making sure that's the big thing. And is, you got to speak up. If you aren't going to speak up and advocate for yourself, no one else is going to do it. So, just learning that over the course of my career.
Good advice. Christina, what are your thoughts? What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, as I was hearing you all talk, and I agree, I actually think I've been very lucky. I haven't felt like it's held me back at all. But that said, I do think at times I've gotten in my own head about it. And what I mean by that is, when I started as a math major, there weren't a whole lot of women in my classes with me. I do industrial development. There's not a whole lot of women. I have 15 directors on my team who report up under me. One is a woman besides myself. I'm used to being the only. And there was a time where I felt like the only, for example, we're going out in the field, but I know we're doing a nice dinner after. What should I wear? Because women's shoes aren't always the best at going from event to event. But what I found is if I just talk to my male colleagues, they're more than willing, happy to help me out. Most of them have wives, sisters, mothers. And so, and you were talking, Mina, about being your daughter. I remember, so I have 2 children, and when I was pregnant with both of them, I got so in my head thinking, like, are people just going to see me as this mom now? Because I really want to be seen as this career powerhouse here. And I almost ignored the fact that I completely ignored the fact that I was pregnant all 9 months. I was like, if I just ignore it, nobody else will notice. And when I reflect, I mean, that was me projecting, right? I think a lot of times, what's cool about being a woman in a male-dominated industry is we're different. People love listening to what's different. I find that when I talk in a room, I really feel like listen, and because it's different, right? But it's hard sometimes when you're the only one. I think as people, we tend to be a little tribal. It gets, it's getting out of my own head though. But as far as relationships, some of my best advocates and mentors have been men, and I'm so thankful for them.
You know, I'd add, if you don't mind, like, we get in our own heads. I think about when the story of, like, what am I going to wear in the field all day? You know, Chuck Baker, who runs the Short Line Railroad Association in DC, he always reminds me that 0 people are looking at your shoes, which, you know, has led to me wearing sneakers when I go in Capitol Hill, because why should I have uncomfortable feet? Men get to wear sneaker dress shoes now all the time. But, you know, youth is wasted on the young. And when you have experience and age, you know, you start to realize the things that you worried about 20 years ago just do not matter at all. They really don't. It's what you bring to the table for the business and supporting your team and stuff is what counts, and like what you're wearing just does not at all.
So true.
I would like we are getting some great questions in, and this one gets to a point that you made earlier about mentors. This person would like to know, in what ways can allies of women in rail take action to support? What would you ladies suggest?
I can start with that one. So I like to give the story of, I'm big into WTS, and one of the first meetings or conferences I ever went to, there was a presentation, this panel, and somebody said, if you post a job position and a man they will submit their resume and everything if they're qualified for maybe 50% of the requirements, and a woman who is 90% qualified for 90% will not apply for it because they don't feel like they're good enough or that they're qualified. And so I think that as an ally, the biggest thing, there are a couple things that I would recommend is, number one, always encourage people to step outside their comfort zone, even if it's just that one thing that you don't think that you're going to be capable of. I mean, we're all hard workers, we're going to be able to figure it out. So that's one thing, is encouragement. The second thing is to take them along with you. The biggest way to advance, especially in this industry, is by developing your network. And if you are going to a professional organization or a conference or a meeting, get those people out there and get them involved in the projects or the panels, or learning more about the industry, because that's really how you get recognized and you get noticed, is to be out there and participate.
I love what you said about bringing people together. So we've started this, it was in a different women's leadership group that we were part of, but they talked about frequently too that women, or especially early in their career, won't always sit at the table in the conference room. They'll kind of sit along the edge. And so we've been really intentional as women leaders at CSX of bringing those women, saying, no, you sit at the table, sit right here next to me. So I do think it's modeling it. And also, I love what you said, bring them along.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing, right? Really bringing the confidence and showing you know, you know what you know, and what you don't know, ask questions, learn. And you're curious, you want to learn, you know, people just have to help encourage, like Kristen said, and encourage to get out of that comfort zone. Sometimes women are a little more worried about getting out of that comfort zone, and that encouragement is key.
Mhm.
Another question that we have is, how have each of you influenced the culture of your organization? Christina, how would you respond to that question?
So it must be because it's either ingrained in me because I have a mother who takes every opportunity to embarrass me throughout my whole life, to the point where I don't embarrass easily anymore. But I am so proud when I'm in a meeting with my team and I say something and they disagree and they feel comfortable calling me out right there. And it doesn't have to be aggressive, but we just have an open and honest discussion versus them coming back and whispering, I didn't want to say anything in front of anybody, but just so you know, and then we have to have another meeting. To me, having this culture of open and honest discussion where it's okay to be wrong, and if you are wrong, we talk about it and course correct, I think is so incredibly important. And I'm not perfect. There are days where I could do better at this, but that's the thing, that if I do only one thing, I want my team to be able to challenge ideas. I want us to, and not just say, oh, that won't work because it didn't work yesterday. Well, today's a new day. Everything changes. So, and constantly be looking at new, fresh ways of doing things and telling me, one of the things I tell them all the time is, I might jump out my window and there's a river right there and into the river because I truly believe I'm going to be there. But if you think I'm going to break my neck, tell me. I may still jump out the window, but at least you told me, you know? So to me, that's so important. So important. And that's what I'm trying to do.
I think one of the things I've always really focused on, and now at Norfolk Southern too, like I'm new, learning the culture, how things work and everything, but getting people to really connect and learn about each other, both personally and professionally. And it's really getting out the strengths as a team. And picking up the phone or passing by or getting on a Teams call. But, you know, no one knows everything. But if you connect to your network, get to know people and understand what they're working on, what they're good at, and then use that in your day-to-day. It's all about how do you make things happen together. You can't do it alone. It's all about collaboration. That comes back to the sustainability. For me, it's a team sport. You know, there's nothing that we could achieve alone, but together, you know, sky's the limit. So really getting people to talk to each other, especially when I'm not in the room, they're picking up the phone and they're getting together and figuring it out, and we're coming up with solutions and making it happen.
I'd like to add too, you know, at Michael Baker, we have a women's empowerment network that it was started with a bunch of the senior women within the company, and it's open to everybody, allies, younger women, you know, from entry level to senior. And we have a bunch of committees. So we're really like brainstorming like different topics and ways that we can interface better within the organization to really build that up. And also encouraging through our mentorship program, which is a separate program, a lot of the women leaders to get involved in that program. And even, you know, the younger folks to really step up and, you know, get involved, get mentored, you know, request specific mentors, et cetera. So, because it's really good just to kind of boost everyone up.
For me, I was like, how would I impact Watco's culture? I don't know. I think one of the things that I like to bring to work is laughter. We have such hard things to figure out and tough problems to solve. And things happen on the railroad that are very difficult. And I always just try to approach it with humor, because we need that. Everybody works really hard at our business. And I always joke that teasing is my love language. So I like, to you, Christina, like, I love it when somebody teases me, because like I am full of it at plenty of the time, and having close enough colleagues that can call me out on that stuff, but do it in a funny, meaning, like friendly way, nothing too serious, so we can get through the day. I can't get through like a serious meeting without cracking some kind of joke. I'm lucky to have had a very funny grandmother, and so I like to carry on her legacy by making people laugh. I don't know if I'm always good at it, but I try.
I love it. Sure you are.
This question from an attendee, and I think this can apply to men and women who are new to the rail industry. What is your advice for those people who are new to the industry in terms of how to look at their careers and shoot for growth and development? Laura?
How to help with growth and development? There's a particular woman at WACO that I have become close to over the years. And, I always say there's one of me and 5,000 of you, and it's hard to remember everybody's name and stuff, but she like pulled me out of the crowd, and she just decided she liked me, and she made a point to start communicating with me. And as I've gotten to know her name is Sarah Printy. She kind of oversees our office in Overland Park, Kansas. I know she has a lot of potential beyond supporting an office, and I've pulled her into our sustainability team and helping us manage our EcoVadis effort, which is, for anybody that's done that knows how just darn difficult that is. And she's just latched on to being an enormous help. And this gives her, I think it gives her a lot of joy beyond just the stuff that she does on a daily basis. And I think that's for me, that just, it gives another woman a chance to dip her toe in my world. And, we've gotten incredibly close. She's going to be a friend of mine for the rest of my life. Because she picked me out of a crowd. She's like, I like you. You come in here. She always said, I always love the energy that you bring when you walk into the building. And that's what made her start talking to me. And because there's so many people in that office, I don't know I would have been like you. But I'm very fortunate she did that to me.
But I think to your point, Laura, really, it's about being curious and reaching out, I'm sure, she reached out and she wanted to learn, she wanted to do something more. And, there's a lot of people throughout my career, including now, that, reaching out and being curious, asking questions. And I think in railway, you do need to go out to the field. So, call a superintendent, call a supervisor. Go out there. Railroaders love to teach, to show what they're doing, I went to, I remember Manny Lorero at CN. He took me out on track to show me how they were changing ties and rail, and it's incredible. But once you get the appreciation and understanding of what actually happens out there on the ballast and all of the different areas, whether it's engineering, mechanical in the locomotive shop, even went with, suppliers and did night shift in a truck to understand, how they were fueling the locomotives in the middle of the night and why was it so difficult sometimes. Curiosity, and going out in the field, that's where it happens. We're an operations company. Railways move goods. That's what we do. So if we want to learn about the business, going out there, and then bringing that back, if you're in the office, to what you're doing every day is the critical part, whether you're a woman or a man or whoever getting into the rail industry. You need to go out there to understand the business.
And if I can just add, oh, sorry, Christina, if I can just add a little bit to that too, you know, when you're working on a project and, you know, we all started non-traditionally into our positions within the rail industry. And, you know, even as an engineer, you know, I'm working with other folks that may be straddling the fence. They may be trying to decide what their career path is really going to look like. That's a big thing these days. Like, I want to know exactly what my steps are. Well, you know, you really choose your own adventure, and your career path is really the decisions you make when you get to that chance. You know, am I going to go this way or this way? And you know, and that could, you know, maybe sometimes you choose poorly and you have to take a step backwards and reroute yourself. You know, get ways to tell you which way to go. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, if you didn't choose that, you wouldn't know that you didn't like that. And so, you know, when you're working with folks on your projects, whether or not they're in rail or not, you know, maybe during that time, if you see some promise, you see some you know, inquisitiveness or anything with some of the younger folks or even other folks that you're working with, you know, you can guide them and, you know, see if the rail industry is really going to be make an impact for them.
Kirsten, you know, building on that, making decisions, I see somebody ask me what tough decisions I've made in my career. My very tough decision was leaving agriculture and natural resources conservation. I thought I was going to die with those folks, farmers, ranchers, salt of the earth people. And I left because I kind of reached a ceiling there. And when I think back on that, it was like, you know, you wanted something more, right? Mm-hmm. And I completely switched industries, and that was in 2006 at Go Rail. And that was that was a very tough year, and it had to do with personalities that are long gone, right? I cried a lot that year, like thinking, how did I deserve this? What am I doing? But, you know, I would remind everyone, there's always silver linings. There are always silver linings when you are open-minded enough to find them. And for me at Go Rail, it was a guy from Norfolk Southern who made me laugh. He made me laugh every time I was near him. And all I wanted to do was be around these Norfolk Southern people, and how I became friends with so many of them. And it made, that allowed me to bloom in that role. And, you know, I am so glad I stuck with it, even though I wanted to quit every day, but I didn't. And that's because there were silver linings. So I wanted to just answer that tough decision question, since Kirsten, you brought up making tough decisions in your career.
Yeah. Christina, you were going to make a point earlier.
Yeah, so I just really wanted to reiterate something that Mina said. As somebody who's worked in different industries, I have never seen people be so passionate about what they do. And Julie, you mentioned it a little bit in the beginning. It's families that pass it down. So I don't know if that's what it is, but I think if you've come from another industry, you're new to rail, depending on where you came from, sometimes people have this protective attitude around their work, or if you're asking too many questions, they're thinking, well, we don't have time for you. I've never seen people be so open, and it's across the rail industry. I see it at short line partnerships. I see it at other class ones. I see it definitely at CSX. Don't be afraid to ask. They love to show you what you do. And as someone who started, I did operational audits, but the time I was in finance, it was so important, even being in finance, to get out in the field occasionally, because it really seeing it, it's amazing what that can do for you. And then the other thing I note, and although I think doing internal job postings is great and doing internal job interviews is great, don't forget that every single day is a job interview. I truly believe this. I really do. Not to stress everyone out, and it doesn't have to be your best interview ever, but if you think about it like that, hopefully you'll have more good days than bad. But I was in a finance position where Job Plus, they asked me if I wanted to help write our earnings releases. And Laura, I could have used you because I'm not the best writer. But
I don't do math, so.
we can work together here. I like it. But I just think about that because our VP of Investor Relations, we became close. I supported him well, and now he's my boss as the Chief Commercial Officer. And I truly believe he wouldn't have given me this shot if not for taking on that role. And so you never know where your path is going to go. I thought I was going to be a public company CFO. Who knows if that'll ever happen? But if it doesn't, I love what I'm doing now. Paths are winding, and it always seems to work out. But ask those questions and just know your fellow railroaders will love to show you what they do.
Well, I think we have time for one more question. This hour's gone by so quickly. I think this would be a good one to wrap up with, and it has to do with representation. How has representation, seeing a woman in a leadership role in this industry, shaped your career path? And how are you paying it forward at this stage in your career? Mina, how about we start with you?
So I'll start. I mean, I got hired by Fiona Murray, for those of you who know her. She basically ended up as a VP at CN, mostly commercial, but then she did go to public relations for a while. But she hired me as a co-op, and she had started as a librarian. But I basically saw her in her career path, and there were many women, but women and men, leaders, right? What you want to see is what's good and what's not so good, and learn from it, and basically create your own type of style. And really, that's who you are. And you always have to be true to yourself as a leader. And I think that's how you inspire and do give that ability for others to follow a path. So, I mean, today and throughout my career, it's been, mentor programs, when they're not official, actually, they're even stronger. So, making sure, someone comes up to you and young woman that's trying to figure out what's the career path. And yes, I find today we need a lot more certainty, but there's a lot of uncertainty. But, those questions that come through, and then just being able to always be there. My door is always open. I want talent, and whether it's women or men, I think it's important, the diversity aspect. And I can't remember if it was Christina or Kristen that said it earlier, but, we bring a different mindset, a different way of thinking, and I'm not an engineer, so also economics or math, it's an even different way. But when you put those different ways of thinking together, what you're able to find and the innovation that comes out of it. And I mean, rail is full of innovation. And we are, in the last few years, there's been so much at a much faster pace even. It's that diversity and really having people that have different ways of thinking, but bringing them together, listening, learning, and making things happen together. So, I'm always looking for talent. I'm always looking for people that are curious and looking to develop.
Kirsten, what are your thoughts?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go, Kirsten.
Sure. So my thoughts are, when I see, when I saw women in leadership within my company, it gives me a target, like a goal. If I want to, if my decision is that I want to make it to that level, which I do. So it was always just the target, and seeing that as inspirational because, that there's already women there that have forged the path ahead of you to get to like an executive position or a leadership position, whatever. And, my career, I've always been, mentoring staff that reported to me, mentoring coworkers that I thought would be great for an opportunity to be on this project or to manage this project. And so just participating, like mentoring, even an informal program, like Mina said. We have a formal program here at Michael Baker, and I always tell everybody, like, if you want a mentor, if people request me, then I'll participate in it, or we can do some offline, just meetings at whatever interval that we decide. So just not being afraid to just reach out and talk to people and network, and start organizations within your company if you don't have one. So like there's always going to be other people there that are going to want to help you and work towards a common goal.
Great. Laura, you were going to make a point?
I know we're coming up on time, and we met up. I've already mentioned Judy Petrie as somebody that I looked up to I still look up to for many years now. But, I still come across women that I'm just like, whoa, she's totally badass. And one of those women is Janet Drysdale at CN. I have not known her a long time, but I was on a panel with her a couple years ago, sat next to her, and I was like, there's no way I can measure up to this woman. Like, she has had an epic career at CN, and like just a terrific personality. And I was like, I want to get to know you. And now when I'm near her in town, I always seek her out. We go have dinner, and I get to learn from her. And for those of you, I know Mina, you know her, but I still look up to a lot of women in this industry, even though I've got many, many years under my belt now.
Christina, can you bring us home on this question?
Sure. And I'm just so thankful that you have us here today. I think it's changing, and I'm really excited. I have a son and a daughter, but I'm thinking forward to, when my daughter starts working. I just see so much changing, and there is some power, I think, in seeing people in positions who look like you. But just because you don't see somebody who looks like you, I'd encourage, don't give up. You could be the first. I mean, Laura, you mentioned some women who are the first, and I can't express the power in having some of those male advocates as well. But yeah, it's nice to see people who look like you, but don't be discouraged if you don't, because there's always tomorrow.
Well, thank you, ladies. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I'd like to thank our panelists, Christina, Mina, Kirsten, and Laura, for sharing their influence and their insights with us today. And I'd like to thank all of our attendees for watching and sharing their questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. There were so many good ones. And I'd like to again thank our sponsors for helping to make this event possible. Please follow Progressive Railroading for information about the 2026 Women of Influence in Rail recognition. We expect to open nominations sometime this fall. And with that, we conclude today's event. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.